Welcome back to the Arch-In Podcast, your hub for news and edutainment for Archway, Cosmos, and the greater Web3. Today's guest is Cryptocito, the top influencer in Cosmos, who in addition to running validators, organizing real-life events like Cosmoverse, and boasting 30,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, is one of the top thought leaders in community growth and organization in this space. Today, we discuss his motivation to continue producing and bettering his content, the current state of the Cosmos ecosystem, and narratives we should lean into to help grow it, current and future funding avenues for content creators, keys to community building, and the framework of a good airdrop. You can support Cryptocito by subscribing to his YouTube channel and delegating to stake Cito validators live on many of the Cosmos chains. Enjoy.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Phi Labs or the Archway Protocol. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only.
Welcome back to the Arch-In Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Weisen, and joined today with special guest Cryptocito, with 29,000 YouTube subscribers and over 64,000 followers on Twitter. Really the number one influencer in the Cosmos space. Dude, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate and love being on the other side of the interview sometimes, so glad that you guys invited me.
Well, obviously everybody who's really familiar with Cosmos knows who you are. You've been the number one evangelist, really, of helping spread the Cosmos good news to the everyman, helping scale the community instead of just scaling the tech. But for those people who are just tuning into our show, will you give them a little bit of background about who you are, how you got involved in crypto and Cosmos?
Yeah, so I stumbled upon crypto sometime in like early 2017. I was studying back then. I actually studied economics and Chinese, so I studied the language of Mandarin. And you know, as students are, we just had a lot of time to like think about life and what we want to do in the future. So we somehow, heard about Bitcoin, and that's where we really started to dig deep into the concept of money, decentralization. What is money? How do central banks work, right? How does everything work? Transfer of value, all these kind of things. So when I really understood that for the first time, I was like, Bitcoin is here to stay. Like crypto is a revolution. And it took a while for us to also then start investing and, putting our hard-earned students' money into crypto, which we then lost everything in 2018, 2019. But we sticked around. I actually doubled down in the bear market 2018, 2019, which at the time I was doing an exchange year in China as part of my study program. But in China, I really understood like there's a huge industry that's being built and there's a lot of developers. There's a lot of money that wants to get into this market, but it's still very early days, right? And back then, crypto was pretty much dying out. Liquidity was drying out. Nobody cared about it. People just left the industry. So when I saw like, okay, this is kind of like hitting a bottom here, I actually even got more excited about it. So I just, scooped up as much as I could and tried to also make money on the side to like get all in on crypto. And obviously by doing that, I also did a lot of mistakes, right? So I pretty much did everything wrong, right? I had money, like coins on exchanges that don't exist anymore. I got hacked, I got scammed. I had my private keys online that, obviously got wrecked. So I did everything wrong. And then when COVID started, early 2020, I thought, I made all these mistakes and I've been quite, around for a couple of years at least, like 2-3 years full time, like researching, trying to understand. So it's like, I just start a YouTube channel and record and see where it goes, right? Everybody was stuck at home anyway, so what else you do? So I did that, tried to like cover everything and nothing, and then somehow stumbled upon Cosmos because I had some Atom coins that I don't even know where I bought them, but they just were in my wallet. So I was like, okay, either I do my research now or I just sell it. Thankfully, I decided to do my research. Met Jack Zempolin, this is sometime late 2020, who then walked me through IBC. This was pre-IBC launch, so what the concept of interoperability is, how IBC works, and that really resonated with me. Also, this app chain thesis, the kind of like philosophy that we will not kill ETH, or we will not be the Bitcoin killer, or we're not better than this or that. We're just trying to like build Web3. So I like that idea, and from there, I guess the rest is history.
Dude, that's fantastic. A lot of similarities. I got in the same time. I studied economic philosophy. That's how I kind of found my niche here.
Nice.
But that's no, that's wonderful, because back then, some context for people who are newer, there was no IBC, there was no 50 plus app chains that are all connected. Like, there was just kind of this buzzword of interoperability that everybody threw on their pitch decks, but the tech really didn't exist. And so now we know that Cosmos does have the best tech, but even back when like Tendermint was founding, like the consensus algorithms, like everything was theoretical. It's like, well, we think we can do this. And right now we're like, well, we think we can do interchain contracts, but we're really at the budding edge of everything that's becoming the new tech that everybody's going to use 10, 20 years from now. So we're here at a great time. And it's awesome that you had the guts, the gumption really to double down and to buy in the bear market.
That's why I think it's good to like also be surrounded with people that maybe have at least one cycle behind them, because that's, you know, how you learn. That's how I learned from these people, you know, that have been around in crypto 2013, 14, you know, when I joined in 2017, 18. And it's just like, this is all a cycle, right? And it goes up a lot, then it goes down a lot, but the tide is always higher. You just have to be persistent and, you know, try to keep your emotions under control, because it's a highly emotional market and everything we do is also super experimental, right? But yeah, it's exciting. I think I don't regret anything. So there we go.
You felt all the scams, you went through all the mistakes that new people made, and then you started this YouTube channel to help the other new people that follow you to not go through the same issues, get their research aggregated in one place in ways that they can understand. You've done an awesome job with that, and you've scaled since starting this at the beginning of COVID to now really being the number one influencer in the Cosmos ecosystem, and one of the top ones, in my opinion, in the crypto space. So what motivates you to continue improving your channel?
Thank you, first of all, for the very kind words. I think, honestly, like for me, since the beginning, it's always been to just publicly learn, to be honest. You know, like the purpose of my channel predominantly is to interview founders, builders, developers, right? I have hundreds of interviews on my channel, predominantly in Cosmos, but not only Cosmos, right? And I also want to express this multi-chain philosophy. So I don't want to be Cosmos only and everything else is a scam. I had Emin, the founder of Avalanche, on my channel. I had the founder of Hedera on my channel. So I like other ecosystems and want to find out how they think and do. And I think that's kind of like part of my motivation, is to just publicly learn, you know, share some of the experiences. I also run this public investment challenge where I just want to like walk people through where to click, how to do DeFi, right? It's more about the learning aspect. But obviously the investment part is very catchy for people. So, you know, airdrops, I do a lot of videos about that, which obviously a lot of people are in it, right? And that's also fair. I think in crypto, there is a lot of free money actually if you do airdrops. And, you know, I actually hope you guys are also going to do one. So let's see. Also, since I connected this with the physical world where you meet people, meet your listeners, or they can meet me, and they come up to me and say, hey, thanks to your one video, I got, you know, a 4-figure airdrop that like I could pay off my bills, or, you know, that's cool. Like that's really motivating. So I really love that. For me, it's also about connecting people, meeting people, and yeah, it's a great time. And I think it's been a good decision to do that. And yeah, I just continuously try to like get better, improve my setup. It's also highly competitive, obviously, with other content creators, right? You always have to be like fast in, you know, delivering content, but it's fun.
Yeah, well, it's been cool seeing you grow and seeing the channel continue to develop, and like that you're getting beyond Cosmos and whatnot, because it does give a lot of context to people who might just be in our echo chamber. Like, why not Polkadot? Like, what do they have different than us? Where can we get better? How can we grow? We see a lot of governance proposals coming up for like our next steps. And one of my concerns with crypto is that it's a bunch of the most brilliant developers in the world and not a lot of the best like economists. And so like I was against Atom 1, Atom 2, but we see some people that support one of them or the other one. Is how do we push forward? And having context outside of our echo chamber really does help with that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's also, I think, why I like Cosmos so much, is because, like, in general, the Cosmos philosophy is to be collaborative, right? There's a lot of mutual respect with Cosmos developers and Ethereum developers or parity developers. So I really like that idea, because one of the reasons why I started a channel as well was when I started early 2020, that was when the, toxic Bitcoin maximalism was at the peak. I'm sure you remember those times when everything was a scam, right? Everything except for Bitcoin is a scam. So I wanted to make a video that, I believe that's not the case. And there's a huge revolution going on in DeFi and also eventually NFTs, right? So yeah, I like to have always an open mindset and, see what other ecosystems are doing and how other people think.
So with the Cosmos right now, while we are kind of in between future directions, and we have a lot of new narratives spinning up with ICS, mesh security, we still have a lot of app chains coming out, but then also new ways of scaling app chains, be it Saga or Dimension. Where do you see us going, and how do you think we can best optimize where we're at right now?
Yeah, I think there's two things, right? One is Cosmos as an ecosystem, and I think we're just getting started, right? We currently have 54 IBC-enabled chains in production. There's many, many more. I don't know the number, but so many. And every day I'm learning about a new one that's gonna launch, and also bringing Cosmos technology to other ecosystems, right? Enabling interoperability. For example, Composable is bringing IBC to their Polkadot and Kusama chain. Then there's a protocol that's launching IBC as a Avalanche subnet. I think as an ecosystem, Cosmos is just really getting started right now. This whole idea of having sovereign app chains. I did my research on Polkadot and Avalanche, and I really like their concept, but parachains in Polkadot or subnets in Avalanche are not fully sovereign as they are in Cosmos, right? I think really Cosmos has truly full sovereignty of app chains. And I think once people really understand that, we see also a lot more hype around it and also education around it, which is also why we see protocols like DYDX, for example, just migrating over and launch their own app chain, because it does have a lot of benefits. So I think overall, we're just getting started in Cosmos. When we talk about shared security, I think that's where Cosmos is actually lagging behind. As you mentioned, interchain security or replicated security, which is coming now to the Cosmos Hub this or next month. That's going to put the Cosmos Hub specifically more into the footsteps of the relay chain in Polkadot, for example, which could also accrue a lot of value for Atom and really be a strong value accrual mechanism for Atom as an asset, which is oftentimes being represented or understood as Atom is representative for Cosmos, which actually it's not, but it's kind of everybody thinks it, so it kind of is. But I think when it comes to shared security, there's a lot of exciting stuff that's coming, and it's also much needed, right? So interchain security, probably the first step. Mesh security, probably within Cosmos, kind of a big revolution. But then the end game would probably be, imagine if the Cosmos Hub would secure the Polkadot relay chain and vice versa, and Avalanche subnets secure Osmosis and vice versa. To really have interoperable network of mesh security, I think that's really exciting, and probably also where crypto is headed in the future. But yeah, I feel overall Cosmos is just getting started, and there's a lot that's in the pipeline. What's really needed, though, I think developer-wise, it's growing and growing and growing. What's really needed now is a big liquidity injection. We need more DEXs, we need more alternatives, we need more DeFi, more NFT volumes, right? I think that's what's needed before Cosmos can go really viral. But honestly, I think it's just a matter of time. So let's see.
Yeah, we're definitely fostering innovation, and where innovation starts, the liquidity, all the money really will follow. So we're in a good place at a good time. Now, one of my issues with Cosmos economics in general is that it really, in my opinion, overfunds validators, which are securing the network, yes, but not even in an optimized way for securing the network. And it doesn't really cover a lot of other costs that are imperative for the growth of a network, which I believe should be decentralized through inflation. And one of those is public goods, as we've just seen We're recording this on the 2nd, so really recently, that Confio is talking about stopping their public good services when they're one of the core contributors to Cosmwasm, as well as content creators and people trying to spread awareness and grow the community. How can we better fund this? And for new content creators or people who want to join the space and really help spread the good news, how do you think they can best get funded?
Yeah, I think there's two angles to this. One is like the funding of public goods, which, as you referred to, Confio, they have been building core infrastructure, right? They're the core, entity that's been developing Cosmwasm, the smart contract environment in Cosmos. So I think for them, there should be some sort of either like a decentralized interchain treasury that funds public good development, or technically, this is what you have in pretty much every other ecosystem. You have the core foundation in the ecosystem, which in Cosmos is the interchain foundation, right? To like support with funding, which, as of my understanding, I'm not like too familiar with the case, but I think that's what they did up until recently. But I think they're going, through some restructuring. So that's kind of like, I think, the byproduct of the fact that Cosmos does not have a centralized leadership or a centralized organization that runs everything, right? If you look at who's organizing the hackathons in Cosmos, who is organizing the conferences, who is funding the development, it's pretty much all like independent development teams, which has benefits and disadvantages. The case that you mentioned, I think that's a disadvantage, and there should be a solution for it. One way could be to set up a decentralized treasury, like a grants DAO or something that is funded by different community pools from like core chains in Cosmos. That could be one way, or to restructure the ICF to support that. Another layer is, as you mentioned, content creators, people that have clear businesses or use cases that want to request funding. And I think we've seen historically, people just requesting funds from the community pool, which I think so far has been okay, right? We also did that with Cosmoverse, for example. We went directly to the community pool and requested funding, and it was, it went through with like 96% approval. But I think moving forward, that's also something where you can have sub-DAOs to fund certain aspects, right? One could be to fund development, one could be to fund content creators, one could be to fund marketing initiatives on a larger scale, like conferences, for example. So I think that the future is, and that's where I also see the conversations right now happening in the community, is like really to go with this DAOs and sub-DAOs concept. And that's also like the Cosmos spirit is the community does a lot, contributes a lot, has a voice. So yeah, it should be there already technically, but I think it's just work in progress. So it's going to come.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of future in having sub-DAOs manage a lot of things, especially funds. We'll be building out a lot of that infrastructure on Archway as we have kind of treasuries built in with recurring revenue. So I'm calling out, not sure if that's going to stick. But we did see Prop 89 Cosmic Validators did get it passed through community pool. I was a little contentious to get content creation funding. I'd be interested in seeing Confio go directly to the community pool while inflation goes to the validators, like kind of to help decentralize payments as a miscellaneous fund. That's what the community pool has created, where it is like then governable and manageable by the DAO. So I was happy to see the tax increase. And while we're seeing a lot of weird conversations take place about who should be able to get to use it and for what, that's really a lot of how we're going to help with the direction of the future community.
Yeah, I agree. And I think specifically to Prop 95, in general, I'm all for, compensating content creators, because being a content creator myself, I know how much work it is. And I know how much, how much it takes to get to a level where actually anybody watches your videos. Like the first videos I did for months, or even almost a year, nobody watched it, right? I had to tell my mom, my sister, my friends, can you please watch it, or just let it run through. Don't even have to listen. Just let it run through for the algorithm, that's how you start. So, and it takes hours to make one video, and then you record it 10 times because you don't like the angle, you don't like your voice, you don't like how you said things. So it's a very time consuming thing. So I generally like when content creators do that. In that specific case, and I like initially I was like, yeah, that's cool. But then I think we also changed our vote and our opinions. But it kicked off the conversations around how to fund content creators. There's many ways to do that, right? For example, I have a channel sponsor that I'm collaborating with. I also help them to, refine their communications, their own content strategy. But everybody's free to do whatever they want. But I think in general, it should be a cool option, and it shouldn't be very strange to like come up with the idea to request funding from the community pool, which is there to grow the ecosystem, right? And onboarding new users grows the ecosystem. So that's how I think about that.
I agree. And there's an opportunity cost of like limiting the content and being exclusive to Cosmos. It's easy to say like, oh, we'll go monetize. Like that's up to you. It's like, well, I can, but I'm going to have to go to these different audiences that are larger. If you want me to make content that like specifically is going to be helpful for you guys, if you don't have a large enough community to make that monetizable inherently, then I'm going to need subsidies. So there are a lot of different ways to go into it. It's easy to say, oh, get money elsewhere. But if we do want the content that they're going to create, like it is, the burden is on us. Speaking of communities, we're early on in Archway. We haven't launched yet. We haven't airdropped yet. And yes, we do plan to. But that gives us a unique opportunity where we have like a very small community now, but with big ideas and big dApps building out on us, big funding, obviously 21 million raised in the first round, more rounds going on. How would you advise building a community? Like just if you were God and you got to design it, what steps do you take?
I think what a lot of projects get wrong is thinking to like game the algorithm, right? Or like we need to make a tweet that goes viral, or we need to be here or there. I think what's really like the secret to building a community is to just be authentic, right? Like just be yourself, explain what you do, have also a good way to communicate, right? I think what you guys are doing also with the podcast is amazing, right? Like this is great. Just to be like genuinely excited and share that with people. Obviously also with the right audience, right? If you just shoot in the blue, it's like you're not gonna get traction. But I think a lot of projects are just lacking that base layer of authenticity. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, just be authentic, and build cool stuff. Focus on building, and yeah, have a smart way to communicate. Also, just maximize the tools that social media gives, right? For example, I think a lot more projects could do little trailers, little animations, threads, Twitter Spaces, right? To just like build organically. And sure, in the beginning, it's very hard to do because nobody cares, right? Nobody listens, nobody tunes in. But if you present your ideas in a very authentic way, people will listen because they like to be approached at an authentic level and not in a very stiff, very corporate way, which I also see a lot of projects. Like you have a very good style to communicate. I really appreciate that. But a lot of projects, for example, they talk very, they have a different voice. They have a very different way to ask questions, and then you're kind of like losing the interest from the audience. So authentic conversations is really the key here, and just continuity, right? Like just be persistent, don't give up, just keep going, and users will come and your audience will grow with the time, right? So. But and the airdrop is also going to help. Yeah,
no, thank you for that. Yeah, definitely push towards authenticity. I like that. And being multilingual and having done events all over the world and lived all over the world, different places, what communities do you think that we should focus on touching, and what languages should we really play into instead of just everything for the US and English speaking?
I'm a Colombia maxi, so everything Spanish. I think the Spanish, or especially the LATAM community, is growing very fast. We just had customers there last year. Spanish is actually the second most spoken language after Mandarin in the world. So there's like 600-700 million Spanish natives, Spanish speakers. So that's a giant market, fast growing. Argentina, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, those are giant markets. And also obviously Southeast Asia, there's a lot of regions, right? I think Vietnam has a giant crypto community, and also Turkey, right? So that's also going to be the venue for this year, Cosmoverse. We did our homework, we did our research, and Turkey is just also a giant crypto market that has a giant crypto population, but it has relatively low awareness of Cosmos. So we're trying to fix that with Cosmoverse. But honestly, I would just always go where you have a high crypto population and focus on these specific markets. So I would say Spanish, probably Vietnamese, and Turkish are the big ones here.
Awesome. So yeah, you're bringing up Cosmoverse, and you're doing a wonderful job continuing to use your growing platform to boost and to continue pushing forward Cosmos evangelism, really going and reaching out to new communities, trying to bring in new developers, bring in new community members, investors, just growing the pie instead of dividing it more and more. How else can we foster the growth of Cosmos?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, I like, physical events. I think also we should, we talked earlier about what we can learn from other ecosystems. There's actually a Twitter account. I think it's called like Solana Hackers House or just Hackers House. I don't remember. But Solana is doing smaller hackathons or actually big hackathons every other month. Like it's insane. And I think just independent organizations hosting more offline events, going to the regions. This also goes back to your previous question. Like if you want to target an audience or build your audience, you also have to know your audience, right? So for example, if you say, hey, we want to onboard new developers, there's a giant demand, there's a giant amount of developers, for example, in Bangalore, India. Don't just go there and, hope for the best. Do your research on the market, right? Like, how do they operate? How do they work? What do they want? Where do they stand? Like, what information do they need to really, really onboard them? So I think physical events, we can never have enough of these. We actually have way too less in Cosmos. And just more community building in the sense that, you just engage more of your own community, you educate them, how to use Cosmos, education around IBC and all this stuff is super important. We also have a lack of content creators in Cosmos, to be honest. So yeah, but I think also, what you guys are doing is great. So those initiatives are super important. Education, especially through offline events, but also more content for, the online community.
Thank you for the sagacious advice. We're trying our best in that. We've got Area 52 trying to make that the Cosmosm like learning platform that's gamified like Crypto Zombies, but better for everyone to come into crypto or into Cosmos, specifically into Rust. We're doing more with colleges. So Valeria and Kyle from Phi Labs just went and talked to the Oregon Blockchain Club, and we've got a bunch of other clubs we're partnering with. So we're gonna try to do more hacker houses as well. And just really from the Archway side, we're going to try to make one seamless user interface, user experience, really, that people can access the rest of the Cosmos hub from one spot instead of having to familiarize themselves with each chain, how they work, get all the different tokens for gas, just access everything easily. And so hopefully we can make it easier, make onboarding easier and more seamless going forward. We're going to try to contribute.
Yeah, I think that's the key here, really, like to make it easy for people, especially newcomers, because people on Cosmos Twitter, we're just talking about the latest governance proposal and, there's always drama, but there's a giant chunk of the people that are not even familiar with Cosmos. So we need to reach these guys and onboard them with simplicity. I really like that, as you said it. So yeah, glad to also support anything. There's like one part of what we're doing also with Cosmoverse is like we have this one big event every year, right, which is the Cosmoverse conference. But then we also do Atom events around the world. So we want to build satellite communities, Atom Denver we did, Atom Punta Cana, Atom Santo Domingo, Atom Bangalore, we did it also last year. So we want to build these smaller networking events that don't have any agenda. It's just like, get some cosmonauts together, drinks, food, and talk, right? And that's also how you build synergies and also build a more cohesive community, which is really, really important.
Yeah, we'd love to touch base and see if our ambassador program can help out with that. That would be great. Now, as a regional expert on airdrops, how do you prefer airdrops be done? And what are your thoughts on airdrop exhaustion currently?
Yeah, that's a very tough question. And I don't know the answer to it. I think it really depends on your target audience, right? So really think about, because like when projects do airdrops, in the first case, they don't do it to make us rich, right? They don't want to like give us free money that we sell and then, go travel or whatever. It's to onboard users, right? So I think as a project, I would really think about how can I maximize the conversion for airdrop recipients to become users. And at the same time, also don't make it too hard for them. Make it very simple, right? So I like this concept that Osmosis actually pioneered, right? With you have to fulfill missions, you have to stake, you have to do governance, and then you claim more and more chunks of the airdrop. Obviously, also, if you miscalculate or kind of like design the airdrop mechanics and tokenomics, it can also fire back, right? So if you make an airdrop announcement really, really big for a long time, and then it's only 12 cents that you get in your wallet, people get really, really angry about it. And I think that's even counterproductive, which is probably a result also of what you mentioned, this airdrop exhaustion. Because we've been spoiled with airdrops over the past year, and it's been a great year, but the more you get, the more you also get used to getting higher numbers, and then you get a smaller airdrop, and then you complain, right? And that's just how human psychology, I guess, works. But yeah, it's a very tough one. I think there's no perfect way to do it. There's always going to be people that will complain, either because they didn't get it, or because they got too less, or because they had to do many steps. There's always going to be people that complain. But yeah, know your audience, make it simple for them to receive it. And I think that's how you can satisfy at least the majority.
Cool. Yeah, we're definitely planning on doing an airdrop to Atom stakers right now, and we're looking into other chains to potentially integrate for a stake drop like that. We'll have some kind of optimisms where you have to interact with stuff on Archway to unlock percentages of it. But we're also going to reserve some of the token allocation for future events that take place on Archway, so we can do kind of residual airdrops. But as activations for dApps, really. So that's kind of the running plan. We're finalizing things. I'd just like to hear your advice as a core leader in the thought space.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good plan. I mean, the best airdrops historically have always been the ones that you never even, anticipated. But I guess now the time is also different, right? Like, for example, the Uniswap airdrop, right? That was, I was freaking out. I was like, how is this possible that I just get free tokens for like being a user, right? So this reverse airdrop that you get after using the product, I think that's a cool idea, but that doesn't really work anymore because airdrops are so normal now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to my Archway airdrop.
Awesome.
Because I'm staking Atom, so there we go.
I've heard. So before we wrap up here, what is one thing you would like the Archway audience to know? Or what would be a call to action that you'd have for them?
Well, call to action would be subscribe to my YouTube channel and also follow Cosmoverse because we still need some time probably before we can start with the tickets, but hope to see everybody, at Cosmoverse. I think the big call to action is in general, get out there, go to physical events. I can strongly recommend that. That really helped me. As we talked in the very beginning, when I did my exchange year in China, like I went to events, like sometimes even twice per day. Like there was an event here, I want to go there till 6 p.m. Then I go there. Like go to physical events. You're going to meet a lot of cool people. And if not, you at least learn something. But yeah, I can strongly recommend that. Follow all the builders in Cosmos. There's many of them. And just get active and, engage with different communities, try out different products. Don't complain about airdrops being too small. So that would be my top advice.
Oh, thank you so much for organizing Cosmoverse. I look forward to seeing you in Istanbul, and we will make sure everyone is subscribed to your YouTube channel. They should be already. And thank you so much for your time, brother.
Cheers. Yeah, thanks, Eric. Really appreciated that.
And consider us an ally moving forward in everything you guys are due to continue the evangelism for the Cosmos ecosystem. We're here to stay, and we're here to grow.